Hey guys! So adopting a pet in Japan. I mean, I don't want to say, like, oh, this is how it is in Japan, because I don't know how it is for the whole country or other cities. Just us. I'm just talking about us. This is my anecdotal experiences that I'm going to talk about today, which is particularly about adopting cats, because we like cats. So we've adopted 2 cats here in Japan together. He has Leo. Well, he had Leo, who he found in a park when she was just a little baby kitten. So that's how he got her. They didn't actually have to adopt a cat. But there are a couple different ways you can adopt pets here in Japan. Again, this is just from our own experiences here in the city. I'm sure other people have had different experiences, and there are other ways you can do things in different cities. Like Tokyo probably has a lot more options than we have here. It can be quite difficult as a foreigner to adopt a pet here, and I'll get into that a little bit later as well. But probably one of the main ways that people still adopt here is through pet stores. It's probably the simplest method of adopting, because you can just go in and select a cat and fill out the paperwork that day. You may not take them home that day, but you fill out the paperwork and that's that. You don't have to do anything else. You can just go in and buy the animal and then take it home. But obviously pet stores don't have a great reputation, so I think a lot of people try to adopt different ways. Now, it's just that, especially as a foreigner, it can be very difficult to adopt in a different manner. Probably one of the most popular ways these days to adopt is through a website. Like one of the most famous ones is called Satoya Boshu, which means owner wanted. So people will put up their cats for adoption, like if they can't take care of it anymore, or if someone develops an allergy, or if the owner passes away or something, and then someone else will put the cat up on this website, and then you can scroll through all the different pictures of cats and see one that you might be interested in and try to adopt that way. There are also organizations that put up cats on this website, like small groups. I don't know how large any of them are, but small organizations that have an interest in trying to rescue cats. They might, collect a couple, but then put them up online so that people can adopt them, if possible. There are also animal shelters here, like we have in America, but the thing is, there aren't very many of them, and at least here, they're very small. So shelters aren't really a big thing, like physical shelters that you go to and walk around and look for animals. Like where I'm from in Cincinnati, there are a lot of shelters. My family, my family's visited shelters so many times to look at the animals and try to adopt animals, before they get put down and stuff. But here, there aren't so many animals at them. They tend to be quite small. The one here, it tells you to call them before you even go in, because they may not have any animals at all. So last year when we were trying to adopt an animal, June called them and they said, sorry, all of our cats have already been spoken for, so we don't have any to show you. So we couldn't even go to a shelter. And some shelters don't even have physical presences. They just upload pictures of cats, again, on the internet, like with that Satoya Boshu website. So again, it functions more as like a community cat adoption website more than anything else. So people can send in pictures of their cats, profiles of their cats or whatever, and then get that uploaded to the website, and then you can go there and look through the pictures and then try to adopt that way. So these websites are very popular right now. This is what I think a lot of people try to do, because you can look at pictures of cats from the comfort of your own home. People will write profiles on them. They'll tell you the medical history of the cat. They get very detailed, so you can sort of get an idea of what the cats are like that way. But the issue with these websites is that it's very rigorous. It's a very rigorous process if you want to actually adopt a cat that way. People tend to be very strict with their demands for letting you adopt their cat. So They're free, by the way. I forgot to mention that. Like on Satoya Boshu, normal people aren't allowed to request money for cats that they give up, but organizations sometimes request a small fund which gets donated back into the organization so they can recycle it and help rescue more cats. So that does happen, but that's another benefit of these websites, is that they're free, but they're very strict. So there are rules like you have to email back and forth with the owner of the cat, and they have to get a sense of like who you are and if they think you'll be a good owner, and if they think that it's worth trying out, they'll bring the cat to your apartment. Well, first they'll come check out your apartment, like walk in your apartment and make sure that you have a good home for a cat. Like, that makes me really uncomfortable. I can't imagine that in America, like a stranger walking into my home to make sure that it's a good like spot for a cat. I understand why they do that, and you know, from the perspective of the cat, I think that's better for the animal probably. You know, as long as, you know, they're just trying to make sure that the cat has a good home that it can go to. Still, it kind of makes me a little uncomfortable. And then what they often do is they'll drop off the cat for 1 week, a trial period of 1 week, to make sure that the cat can adapt to your house and it gets along well. And if at the end of the week you're like, I don't think this is working out, you can give the cat back. Again, in theory, I think this is a good idea for the cat because, you know, if it turns out like the person, sometimes people realize they can't handle a cat and then they'll just throw it away, but at least this way the cat can go back to the owner. But at the same time, I feel like, I don't know, if the owner is really strict, they might, you know, I don't think it's good for a cat to just be going to a whole bunch of different houses and like seeing all these strangers for a week at a time. I don't think that's so comfortable for the cat. But in theory, I understand why they do it, and they're doing it for the benefit of the pet. So theoretically, I think it's a good idea. They'll also ask to check the contract you have with your apartment to make sure that your apartment says that you're allowed to own a pet, and make sure you're allowed to own the correct number of pets. So some contracts will say, like, you know, no pets allowed at all. Some will say you can have 1 cat. Some will say you can have 2 cats, which is not as common. So they'll check to make sure you're even legally allowed to have a cat. They will also request that you update them periodically, send them pictures, and even let them know if you move so that they can monitor the cat's whereabouts and make sure that the cat moves with you and that you take care of it for the remainder of its life. So it's very, I understand why they do it. I think this system theoretically is very good for the animals. It just feels very strict to me compared to what I'm used to in America. Again, I'm not saying the American way is the better way to do it, because I mean, everyone knows there's way too much animal abuse, animal neglect, people who shouldn't have animals getting animals in America. So this could cut down on that. I think that's a good idea. But I also think it puts some people off from trying to adopt this way because it's quite difficult to go through this process. So I think some people end up just going to a pet store where you can just walk in and say, I want this pet, and then walk out with them the same day or something like that. There's one more aspect of the online shopping for pet adoption, which is Jotokai. A Jotokai is held by different organizations who are trying to facilitate the adoption of pets, in our case, cats. And so what they will do is they will post all the pictures online, and then if you find that cat and you say, I want to adopt this cat, they'll say, you have to come to this Jotokai. And what the Jotokai is a whole bunch of people who have their cats and they're trying to adopt them. Will go to like a community center or someplace like that, and they'll bring the cats there, and then the public can just walk in and walk around and look at the cats and, you know, try to adopt that way. The issue with this is because it's a single event on a single day. When you go there, that means everyone else is there at the same time. If you were looking at the same picture of a cat as someone else, then you're competing with them to try to adopt the cat. It gets to be very stressful because who wants to compete to adopt a cat. Like, again, that's just not something I'm used to. And again, like, theoretically, it's better for the cats, obviously. You know, the owner can, the owner has more options. They're able to pick out who they think is the best owner for the cat. But the problem is, these owners aren't always super knowledgeable about it, and they tend to be very hesitant adopting to foreigners. So a lot of my friends who have tried adopting through these online methods have always been told, no, we're not going to adopt you because you're a foreigner. With the thinking that, you know, as a foreigner, you're going to leave the country and not take care of the cat, like just get rid of the cat or something. So it tends to be very difficult. So for us personally, last year when we tried to adopt a cat after we contacted a shelter and were told, nah, sorry, no cats, you can't adopt here, we tried through the Satoya Boshu website method. And the first cat that Jun found, like, he found a cat, he decided he wanted to adopt the cat, and then he got into contact with the owner, and then he was messaging the owner back and forth for an entire month. And the owner would, like, ask questions, and he would be like, yeah, I'm still interested in the cat, and then the owner would be like, okay, well, wait a little bit, the cat, you know, I don't think the cat should move right now, or something like that. And then at the end of the month, the owner was like, I decided I'm going to keep the cat. I'm just not going to give him away anymore. So we were like, we spent a whole month talking with you, lady. Like, if you're not going to give up your cat, why'd you even put them on the website? We spent a whole month trying to adopt this cat. We could have been spending this time trying to adopt a different cat or something. It was really frustrating for us. But we tried again, and we found another cat eventually, and that cat had a Jotokai that we had to go to. We ended up finding a cat there, like the cat that we saw online that we wanted to adopt. We went there and we were like, hey, we've been emailing you for a couple weeks telling you we wanted to adopt this cat. You said we had to come to this like little meetup here. We're here. We like the cat. We kind of want to adopt your cat. And then there was this like other couple that came along, and they also decided they wanted to adopt this cat. And it's completely at the mercy of the owner here, like them deciding what they want to do. And I swear this was like a parody of a bad anime. It was the most like ridiculous thing ever. This other couple, they were elderly, probably like 60s. She was wearing this bright pink long sleeve shirt, like cutouts all down the arm, like just like, you know, half sleeves with like little stringy strips going down the arm. And then right here on her chest, she had like a giant heart cutout over her chest. That's the shirt she was wearing. I'm not even joking you when I said, and like her hair and like makeup was just like ridiculous, like anime parody sort of thing. And like, I was like, oh, okay, let me calm down and get back into the story. So, you know, we're really interested in this cat. We're asking a lot of questions. This cat is absolutely terrified. You know, the poor cat is in the middle of this really busy room now. Like, she's trying to hide in the back of her cage. Me and Jun are like, we do not want to stress this cat out. This poor cat, you know. So we're leaving her alone. The owner has no idea how to take care of cats, apparently. Her arms have cat scratches all the way up and down. Like, hundreds of cat scratches. It was ridiculous. Her arms were insane. She obviously has no idea how to handle a cat. Like, there's no, you don't, I have dealt with dozens and dozens of cats. I've never had cats that like rip up your entire arms. There are ways to deal with cats that are upset and angry. If you are getting your arms completely like torn up like that, you're doing something wrong. And so this woman obviously had no idea how to care for the cat. The cat was terrified, but she was reaching in and like pulling the cat out. The cat's like trying to hold on to the bottom of the cage so it can like stay in its corner, and she's like pulling it out constantly and like shoving it at people and into people's arms, and she's like, see, she likes you. She's so nice. See, she likes everyone. And Jun and I are just feeling really uncomfortable because we're like, you just, can you just like let the cat like sit down? Obviously the cat is really uncomfortable right now. Can you please let the cat go? And this other couple who's next to us, like this woman with her ridiculous outfit, this ridiculous woman, she's just like the owner. So she's like, you know, grabbing the cat like, ah, kawaii, and you know, like holding on to the cat, and the cat's like trying to escape or whatever. And every time the cat goes back into the cage, like she's reaching in there and pulling the cat back out. And Jun and are like, we're gonna lose to this other couple. We're gonna lose because this owner thinks this is the correct way to care for a cat when we're really just trying to, you know, not stress out the cat. And then so at another point, the person who organized the event, she was kind of like I guess, the guidance person for all of the cat owners there. So like they were getting her suggestions too. Our cat just jumped on the table here, so the camera's shaking a bit. And so like she took us aside at one point and she was like, well, you're a foreigner, so you're gonna leave the country, so I don't think they should adopt you because you're gonna leave the country and then you're gonna get rid of the cat. And I was like, why am I gonna leave the country just because I'm a foreigner? Like, you have no idea if I'm gonna leave the country. Why, if I leave the country one day, why don't you think I would take the cat with me or something? You have no idea about who I am. Why would you say something like that? And, you know, Jun says that very kindly, like, you know, we're living here permanently. Like, she's trying to get permanent residence. Like, you know, we have a business here. We are very firmly attached to living in Japan for quite some time. And that she's like, well, you guys are a young couple, so you're gonna have a baby and then you're gonna get rid of the cat. You're just gonna get rid of the cat when you have a baby and give it up. And we're like, what is, how you even come up with that? Like, what makes you think we're gonna have babies in the first place? What gave you the idea that we're even interested in having babies? And if we had a baby, why would we give up our cat? Maybe because our cat's a jerk like this. Like, oh, he's trying to eat food. Hi, say hi. Say hi, I'm a jerk. Say, say, I was a mistake. Yeah. So, maybe if it was a jerk like this cat, but this is the jerkiest cat I've ever had. I've never had cats this jerky before. I'm just kidding. I would never give up a cat, even as jerky as he is, even as much as he destroys everything that I care about, and I would still never give him up. So anyway, obviously we did not win to that lady, the ridiculous lady with the heart boob cutout shirt, who is like in her 60s with a giant face of makeup and like ridiculous handling of the cat. I was so angry coming out of it. So there's, oh, that was one of my moments here. I was so frustrated. And after that, Jun and I were like, we can't adopt a pet. We've tried, like, every method we can think of. We've tried to get cats here, and we just can't. We can't get a cat. And so, in the end, we ended up having to go to a pet store anyway, and we found one that lists, like, it will give you the credentials of the breeder. Like, it will, like, they tell you the breeder that it comes from, so you can make sure it comes from a reputable breeder. So it's not just, you know, a pet store that's, you know, sending the cats and then, like, if they don't get adopted, killing them, or it's not like a breeder that's, you know, like, breeding lots of sick animals and not taking care of them. So, that's what we ended up doing with Haku. So, that's how we got him. And so I feel like it's really difficult to adopt pets here, at least where we live. I'm sure, you know, if you actually live near a shelter that you can go in and adopt from, it's probably a lot easier. I know they do have some animal sanctuaries here that you can adopt from. Like a few years ago, if you were with us and you've seen every single one of our videos, you may remember that a few years ago we did some fundraising for a cat sanctuary. Jesus! Haku! So a few years ago we did a fundraiser for a cat sanctuary in Tokushima Prefecture called Tokushima Heart, and we helped them raise enough money to build another cat shelter there, which they did. And we got our little fundraising gift from them, which was like a hand-carved dog or cat, I can't remember. We actually haven't unpacked it yet since we moved. But they have a couple sanctuaries like that throughout Japan. They're very far from where we live personally, but they do have one down in Kyushu and a couple other places. But the funny thing that I've noticed about a lot of these that I've looked into is that they were established and they are run by foreigners. So the one down in Kyushu is run by, I believe it's run by a Canadian woman. And I think there's another one run by an Australian woman somewhere. Or some, you know, I could be off on those, but you get the idea. Another thing is if you're buying from a pet store, pets are extremely expensive. Extremely, like ridiculously expensive. Haku was cheap for a pet store cat. Like the pet store that we got him from, they sell some cats for $5,000 to $6,000. A lot of other animals they sell for even more than that. And so that's one of the things with adopting pets is you have to be prepared to spend a lot of money here to adopt an animal if you can't find one another way, which, as I've mentioned, can be really difficult. I think June was telling me that it's kind of common knowledge here that people suspect that, you know, if you get an animal from a pet shelter and it dies within a year, then don't be surprised, because you know, that's just how some of the breeders are. Hina was not responsibly bred. Our cat Hina, she passed away she passed away more than half a year ago now. She had glycogen, I don't know how to pronounce that word, so storage disease type 4, which is a genetic disease that is detectable in parents. So her parents should have been tested. Any Norwegian Forest cat should be tested if they're going to be bred, because it's something that you can see in the test. And then if they have the genetic marker for this disease, obviously you don't breed them, because if you do breed them, then the kittens have a 50% chance of getting the disease. And if they do get it, then almost all of them die before being born. They're stillborn, or in rare cases, like in Hina's case, they survive and they don't exhibit any symptoms until about 6 months of age, at which point they rapidly deteriorate and their muscles just lose function, deteriorate. Their muscles just deteriorate until they can no longer move. Their arms and legs are basically paralyzed. They usually have a heart attack or something similar and then die. Like, it's 100% fatal. There's no way to cure it. It's something that exists in humans too. There's a lot more research about it done in humans. But we were so upset. Like, that's still really difficult for me to think about. Like, honestly, it's really hard for me to still even look at pictures of her. She was the sweetest cat.
You know?
And she should never have been born. And these breeders should never have bred her parents. They're horrible people, and if they think that they got money for doing something that they know would cause pain to an animal and then the family that adopted them, it makes me so angry. That's not to say that that's not something we need to focus on in America too. We definitely do. You know, like we have the show Animal Cops, like Animal Rescue Cops. I used to watch that all the time in America. That shows you firsthand just how horrible a lot of people can be with their. That sentence did not make sense at all. How horrible a lot of people can be with their. Okay, great English, Rachel. Great job. That, you know, of course we have tons of issues that we need to solve in America too. It's not just a thing here. It's not just a thing anywhere. I'm pretty sure most countries have ways they could improve with that. But, you know, as an animal lover, it's very difficult. So we're looking for another cat right now, which is why this is on my mind. We want another cat for Haku because he's got too much energy and he doesn't like being alone. He cries when he's left alone, and I don't like leaving him alone. And, you know, we travel a lot, or if we're gone during the day, I don't want him to be here alone. I want him to have someone else, and he needs someone else to play with him. He's got a lot of energy. And plus, I would like to have another cat that's a nice cat that will sit on my lap and not just bite me all day and destroy all my stuff. Joke's gonna be on me if we get a second cat and they're just like Haku. But June's convinced that, you know, he can pick out a good cat this time, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, so that's been our struggles with trying to adopt a cat here in Japan, at least in our city. We are trying the Satoya Boshu again right now, the website, where, you know, you can where you can adopt from someone else. It's just frustrating when you're trying to adopt an animal. Like, we tried for months the first time when we were first getting some cats, so. But anyway, yeah, that's been our experience with trying to adopt here. A lot of our friends have gone through similar things, like they've tried to adopt in other ways and they weren't allowed because they're foreigners, or they weren't allowed because they just couldn't find cats any other ways, and so they end up having to go to pet stores too. You know, it's just kind of the way it is here. Well, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!